Chapter 22, verses 1 through 61. 1. You human beings, you are part of the universe with its immutable, eternal laws and recommendations of the creation, in which a purpose for existence is also determined for you. The sense of the life which is given in the relatively highest possible evolution of the consciousness. 2. And if you recognize this life purpose and life sense, and bring it into relationship with your own existence at every hour, every day and at all times, then you will unavoidably recognize yourselves and be Lord and Master over yourselves. 3. And if you are Lord and Master of yourselves, then you will be able to arrange your surroundings in a favorable wise through your knowledge and your wisdom, in order to do things of the right, of the fairness and of the progress, as well as of the evolution of the consciousness. For, with such knowledge and such wisdom, however, worries, affliction, misery and hardship, as well as the deepest sorrow and pain can also be overcome. 5. Therefore, the real life is made up of more than just those things that are learned and taken in as school knowledge, because truly there is a really true and higher regulation in the life which is based in the creational laws and recommendations from out of which everything comes forth which becomes and passes. Therefore it is through this regulation that the becoming and passing is determined as well as the causality, i.e. the cause and effect. 6. Painful happenings also have their place in the higher regulation of the life, because they also fulfill their purpose. 7. Solely the causes and interconnections as well as the effects must be recognized and understood, through which a learning results, out of which, in the end, the evolution results. 8. If you human beings are pursued by the unfortunate and are unable to form your lives as harmoniously as you would like, then you are able to change this if you turn to the consonants of the cosmic regulation and therefore to the creational laws and recommendations, and follow them. 9. Therefore it is useful to consider why precisely this or that is done, so that it is possible to act with confidence, and for everything to turn to the good. 10. Truly, creational powers that are building up you human beings are always at work in you, which penetrate into the consciousness and trigger processes through which consciousness powers come about, the task of which is to heal the harms inflicted on the body or to remove tensions in the realm of the psyche, as well as to show in you, in your mental, feeling-based, and willing undecidedness, the right way. 11. The creational laws and recommendations and their powers also cause swinging waves to act in the universe, through which you human beings are influenced, and wherethrough you can direct your consciousness and its capabilities as well as your thoughts and feelings, and form your psyche. 12. And it is necessary for you to know and understand the entirety of these things if you want to have real and valuable success in the life. 13. It is necessary that you live in ample harmony with the powers that are in you and around you, as well as with the disharmonious powers that stand in contradiction to them, since everything is built up on contrarinesses, and therefore always both poles, positive and negative, must be taken into consideration and included in the efficacy of the equalization, for which there is no middle way. 14. Solely the understanding of the creational laws and recommendations is truthfully the key to the right guidance and mastery of the life. 15. The understanding of the higher regulation of the creational laws and recommendations forms the constitution of the life. Therefore, it is of decisive importance for the existence. 16. You human beings have a larger innermost self, the spirit form, which animates your consciousness block as a tiny part piece of the creation. Therefore, your life power is dependent on it physically, i.e. bodily. However, you are no form of the duality, because as material bodies you are, as a human being, your own oneness, which is, however, dependent on the spirit form which gives you the life, and which is in itself also a oneness. Therefore, the spirit form lives in the body of you human beings, i.e. in the region of the superior colliculus, seat of the spirit, i.e. of the spirit form, and the human being in the roof of the midbrain equals paired junction. 17. The spirit form cannot be influenced through effects on the body. Therefore, neither through heat, cold, hunger, pain, illness, or well-feeling. And solely this spirit form is immortal, because if the physical life ceases, then it escapes into its realm of the other world in order to be reborn in its time when a new human body is born, with a new consciousness block, new consciousness, subconsciousness, and with a new personality that are created through the overall consciousness block. 18. These creational principles are to be recognized in all life and in all that which is existent, as in the dying and reawakening of the plant world. Therefore also in the becoming and passing and becoming again of light and darkness, as well as in the tides of the seas and in uncountable other things that are created through the laws and recommendations of the creation in the environment of you human beings, in the nature and in the entire universe. 19. It is only through observing the sky, i.e. the universe with the stars which are integrated into their 1,000,000,000-year-old orbits and cannot be influenced through you human beings, that it comes about that a universal regulation is given which not only includes you human beings but also all existing things, all life forms of all kinds. 20. Therefore, you human beings of Earth with all your daily occurrences are a minute part, a minute speck of dust in the entire and unmeasurable, gigantic reason of the creation. 21. And whoever knows the truth about the creation and about its laws and recommendations, and learns knowledge and wisdom out of this, will be free in himself or herself, because he or she creates true love and freedom, as well as peace and harmony in his or her inner nature, out of which a consciousness-based and psychical well-being shines forth. 22. Thus everything falls away which greedily craves for absolute might, through which the thinking and the life of the fellow human being shall be ruled, as is normal amongst those who in their Ausartung of the might greed, not only hold the scepter above you human beings, but also make you subserviently dependent, enslave you, and exploit you in every possible form. 23. Often brutal, mightful ones of a state are religious zealots who have been led into the unreal, i.e. fanatics who do not know any limits or humaneness, and who see in all of you human beings a threat to their own claims for might, if the human beings have self-confidence and truthfully, or in some other wise above average knowledge, and perhaps also have influence in some wise or other. 24. Already the teaching of the prophets that has been given since time immemorial speaks of these things, and that you shall defend yourselves against these might-greedy machinations of the authorities and mightful ones, so that fairness, responsibility, and conscientiousness may prevail amongst all peoples. Yes, amongst your entire humankind, so that true love may spread all around amongst you human beings, and there may be peace, freedom, and harmony in the human being and on the whole world. 25. The teaching of the prophets, however, has been delivered as a precious good and recorded in the goblet of the truth, in order to encourage you to turn to the truthfully truth, and therefore also to the creational laws and recommendations, and to follow them, so that the human beings change themselves to the better in the sense of the values of the laws and recommendations, and that this developmental change will be carried into the posterity through the descendants. 26. Truly, the knowledge of the truth, the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life is open to all who are searching for it, to all who are of open-minded consciousness and who are willing to turn to the truth and to follow it. 27. And truly, the efficacy of the creational laws and recommendations can give rise to wonderful results in the life of each of you human beings, if you only reach for these efficacies and follow them. 28. Many different processes influence the life of you, but you cannot explain these happenings to yourselves, although this is only because you do not possess the knowledge about the efficacies of the creational laws and recommendations. 29. To many of you, these processes appear oppressive or subsequently ridiculous. Nevertheless, it is precisely such and sometimes apparently insignificant incidents that lead to an inner burden and unfreedom, to inner unpeace, and to disharmony. And these factors can be so strong that you are hindered in pursuing a distinct end, or simply no longer find the power to liberate yourselves from your worries and from all your other burdens. 30. The factors that have an effect on you human beings in this case are very manifold and can also take on extremely peculiar forms. For example, if you meet another human being for the first time, whose appearance and language make a good impression, in which case, however, aversion and mistrust nevertheless come forth. 31. On the other hand, you might meet another human being whose appearance is squalid and whose language is rough, thereby giving a poor impression, whereas an inclination and trust become perceptible. 32. Truthfully, this process is a matter of a fluidal radiation from you human beings, in which case your swinging waves communicate sympathy or antipathy, And in fact, this is entirely according to the condition of your thoughts and feelings, which form the condition of the psyche, your consciousness and personality, as well as the character. 33. Equally, fluidal powers are involved if, for example, you enter a room for the first time and immediately experience oppressive thoughts and feelings. And although the room is clean and tidy, it appears impossible that a well feeling could come about there, or that it would be possible to work there. 34. The solution for such a perception lies in the radiated fluidal powers of human beings who work or live in the room, in which case the fluidal powers radiations of the thought and feeling pulsations as well as of the character, of the consciousness, and of the personality are of those human beings who use the room for their purposes. 35. To understand this means that you human beings must carefully study the creational laws and recommendations and their modes of functioning in order to be able to understand that the fluidal powers arise out of the thought dash, feeling dash, consciousness and psyche impulsations as well as out of the consciousness activity and out of all impulsations such as love and hatred, jealousy, rage, anger, and irascibility, etc. The swinging waves i.e. fluidal powers of which are stored in objects, furniture and walls, etc., and are perceived by the person who is confronted with them, bringing forth an oppressive or uplifting mood. And truly these explanations are not presumptions or deluded beliefs, but the fluidal powers are truthful effects of natural laws which are only little or not at all known to you. 36. A sudden imagination, an idea, a decision, or a thought appears like a light out of an unknown source, an intuition which provides an answer to almost every question and makes it possible to find a way out of many lackings. If the truth is pursued and enough consideration is given to it by following the efficacies of the creational laws and recommendations. 37. The light out of the unknown source, the intuition, is a part of your human consciousness power which is supplied through your creation-given spirit form which animates your human body and which weaves through each cell of the body and of the inner nature of you human beings. 38. Your entire consciousness power can be used by you if you only strive to do so, and you create the capabilities to do so, but unfortunately the bulk of your entire humankind only uses a small part of its own powers of the consciousness. Therefore also only a small part of the possible capabilities is created, whilst in turn only an exceedingly small part of the acquired capabilities is also actually put into action. 39. Truthfully, however, it is possible for all capabilities to be created, used and rendered serviceable if the creational laws and recommendations of the truth are taken, understood, and used, wherethrough an enriched, fulfilled, and joyful life can then be led. 40. Truthfully, the creational laws and recommendations are and remain no secrets if they are really fathomed, and they are equal throughout the entire universe. Therefore, they can be understood by each of you human beings if you fathom and recognize them. 41. Unfortunately, however, this knowledge is not generally spread, and the reason for this is because it has no longer been taught since time immemorial, although the true prophets have taught it through the teaching of the prophets, through the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life again and again through the goblet of the truth. 42. Unfortunately, for one thing, the teaching has been falsified by scribes according to their own whim after they had been tasked through the prophets to record the teaching in writing, so as to deliver it up to the future. And for another thing, the teaching was calumniated as a work of the evil by those who set themselves against the teaching of the prophets, just as they persecuted the prophets and threatened their life and decried their signs, i.e. the evidence they gave as magic. Therefore, the bulk of your earthly humankind has been excluded from the existing and illuminating truth. 43. Over hundreds and thousands of years, the attempts of the true prophets to teach the teaching of the wisdom and of the truth have been suppressed with Goblet, and indeed this continues up to the present day, in which many religions exist, whose believers offer worship and supplication to gods and tin gods invented by you human beings, although this can bring neither benefit nor harm to them. 44. And the worshippers of gods and worshippers of tin gods of the godly religions are the ones who suppress and falsify the truth of the creation and the mode of functioning of its laws and recommendations with all their might, who deny and calumniate the true prophets in order to inflict harm on their reputation and their mission work. 45. Therefore, it is still the case in the new time, that the worshippers of gods and worshippers of tin gods and the mightiness of religions do everything so that the knowledge of the teaching of the true prophets, the teaching of the truth, the teaching of the Spirit, the teaching of the life, the goblet of the truth cannot be passed on unrestrictedly, but can only be taught in small groups, and indeed also only there, where you human beings liberate yourselves from the religions and there. Servants of gods and servants of tin gods out of your own initiative and out of your own interest in the real truth, and are able to turn to the effective creational truth. 46. Therefore, it is a fact that the God worshippers and tin God believers of the religions who are ethically unschooled in the effective creational truth use their belief in supposed gods and tin gods for self-seeking purposes, in order to shine before you human beings, to obtain a good reward for untruth, and to be able to lead a good life in idleness. And it goes without saying that all of this is on the back of the laboriously acquired might and taxes that are taken from the believers. 47. And truly, you human beings are guided through the religious belief into the unreal and are misused for the exploitation of the truth unknowers, in which case you are held distant from the truth and taught irrationally with regard to supposed things that are imputed to be supernatural or unnatural. 48. Truthfully, however, there are no unnatural and also no supernatural things, because everything moves according to the fixed creational laws and recommendations. 49. There are no secrets in the creational laws and recommendations, but only things of your human uncognition, through which the laws and recommendations of the creation are wrongly interpreted and untruly explained due to wrong understanding or through unknowledge. And that also relates to the investigation of your human self and to the universe. 50. Indeed, for you human beings, there is nothing more enthralling than the fathoming of yourself and of the universe and of your entire world in which you live, in order to experience the effective truth. 51. And truly, there is no stronger source of the confidence than the recognition of the truth in all things, and that, except for the true love, there is no greater might than the knowledge and the wisdom that can be used and enable things and miracles to be done which you as human beings cannot dream about. If only you create the necessary capabilities in yourselves or awaken them out of the slumber. If they already exist but are lying dormant. 52. And these capabilities are great, extensive, gigantic, and wide-ranging. So alone the touching of objects can transfer many kinds of messages, or thoughts and feelings can be transmitted into the surroundings, or indeed far away, through swinging waves. 53. And indeed, it is possible for you human beings to perceive the outgoing swinging waves from another human being and to define them in order to determine their feelings or character, etc. in this wise. 54. Truly, the entire life is influenced through the capabilities you have acquired, as are also the thoughts and feelings, deeds and actions, through the fundamental creational truth, which is to be found alone in the laws and recommendations of the creation and also in the thereout resulting nature. 55. And if you turn to this all-embracing truth and make it your own, then you will find a way to reform your entire life and to learn to find yourselves and to guide yourselves. 56. And if you find the way, then every minute, every hour, and every day, week in and week out, month in and month out, and year in and year out will become a joyful experience, because the sequence of all things is determined by yourselves and is no longer left to chance. 57. And in order to go this way, it is not necessary to change your previous activity or to abandon the social obligations which you had had until now, because truthfully you human beings can leave the developmental change of outer things to the guidance of the truth, which is found in the creational laws and recommendations. 58. The fathoming and learning of the creational laws and recommendations reveals the secrets of the creational life, in which case learning them is not simply the same as a teaching through which mere school knowledge is imparted, wherethrough the memory is unnecessarily burdened with many worthless things. Quite to the contrary. Indeed, the creational laws and recommendations activate innate powers in you human beings which show effect in the consciousness and promote, create or awaken capabilities when you are at rest, which in turn leads to the strengthening of your self-consciousness. Through that, however, it is also learned that the right and best way is taken, and therefore not only one's own life, but also the environment are understood and mastered. 59. If you strive for the truth that proceeds out of the creational laws and recommendations, then you will guide yourself step by step into new knowledge and into new areas of knowledge, at the same time as which the truth will flow into the consciousness almost unnoticed, bringing solutions to secrets that had existed up until now, out of which practical experience and living experience proceed, becoming knowledge. And finally, life wisdom. 60. If you work yourselves into the truth in the form of the creational laws and recommendations with motivation and with interest, then you will rather soon experience a considerable developmental change in the thought and feeling world, which will also be realized in the life itself. If the essence of the learning is implemented practically in everyday life, through which a greater help in the mastering of all problems arises in a perceptible wise. 61. And truly, it is through the learning of the truth out of the creational laws and recommendations that the creational guidelines become clear, which are necessary in order to tread the life way rightly and to live in conformity with the laws and recommendations of the creation, which guarantee that you human beings experience uplifting times in your existence.